Hello, everyone. We're going to give a few minutes for people to get in before we officially start. So we look forward to having this for y'all. Mhm. Welcome to our FabFems Friday webinar with the focus today on STEM in life and leisure. We have a fabulous lineup throughout June and July, and hope you can join us weekly for our panel discussions with current students, alumni, and STEM role models in our community. I'm Joyce Atucci, pronouns she, her, with Women in STEM within the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement at the University of Texas at Austin. Today, we have Miria helping us with the Q&A portion of our webinar. You can find many of our FabFems Friday webinar panelists and more amazing STEM role models in the FabFems directory, a national database of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics professions who are inspiring role models for young women. The FabFems directory is managed by the National Girls Collaborative Project and is designed to help increase career awareness and interest in STEM. STEM role models can create a FabFems profile and indicate how you want to be connected, either just serving as a role model with your profile online so students can read about your experiences, or volunteering to be contacted via email or other options. Students, you can search by a keyword or a variety of factors such as zip code, field of work, ethnicity, or interest of engineering. There are lots of options. And we're going to go ahead and drop the link for that in the comments. And then we'll be adding all our FabFem Friday webinars to our WiSTEM YouTube channel and other videos to help future and current students. Subscribe to the channel to get notified when new videos are added. I'm throwing the link in the chat to subscribe now. So today our focus is on STEM in life and leisure. We will have each panelist share some quick introductions here in a moment to get us started. After introductions, we'll have a facilitated panel with pre-selected questions, and we'll be taking some questions from you. So make sure you use the Q&A to submit your questions. So we're going to go ahead and start with the introductions.
So, Miria, do we go in some particular order of introductions?
No, you guys can go in whatever order. So you can go ahead and start if you would like to.
Okay, yeah. So, hi everyone, I am Nirja Edla, and as they are asking about pronunciations, I'm pronounced as she, her, hers, herself. My hometown, I am born and brought up in India, and I'm not sure how many of you know the parts of India, but I am from western part, which is near Mumbai. It's very funny how I'm a global citizen. So my roots are from south of India. I'm born and brought up in western part of India, got married to a person who is from northeast and eastern part of India. Then jobs, career that brought me to Give me 1 minute. Sorry, there is some disturbance. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, and then after for professions and post-marriage, we moved to southern part of India, which is like Bangalore, Silicon Valley of India. And then work brought us to US. So first at San Francisco and then now at Austin. So then that's how I say we are like global village and families scattered at London, at EST, Eastern part of US. So all that, so yeah, sorry about long introduction, but it's little funny about my introduction and where I belong. That's why I took a chance to share that. Then major and degree. So I have done my engineering in chemical branch. And then after that, after a few years of gap, when the opportunity was right, I pursued my MBA. So I want to convey to everyone that it's never too late. Wherever you are in career, you can pursue your education. It didn't work out as soon as I finished my bachelor's, but yeah, if I count around 13 years later, 13, 14 years, I completed my MBA, and it does add value. So that is about my major and degree. And year in school or company organization. So I work for IBM. In between, I worked for Accenture and Infosys also. These are all IT companies. And earlier than that, I have 5 years of sales and marketing experience as well. So number of years in IBM, my first inning was 8 years in IBM, India and US. Now this is my second inning at IBM, which is now third year in the second inning. So with this, I want to convey that corporates are very open to, take you again back if you want to, if you have tasted waters, if you still want to come into the organization, they always welcome you. I mean, if you are honest with your work. So yeah, that's about my year in school or company organization. Hobby or out of school activity. What do you like? What do I like to do outside of school or work? So that's interesting. I can speak forever for that, but in benefit of time, I'll just wrap up in a few seconds. So the thing is, I'm very interested in how our ancient things are related with modern technologies. So in my leisure time, I do lots of reading and I wonder. And if you get into all this, I'm sure there is no looking back. There are proofs. The scientific community, they are researching day in and day out, and it's so related. When we say we are so technologically advanced, just try to know what our ancients did, and then you'll be amazed, and then we feel so small. So yeah, that's about me. So that is introduction, and sorry for a very longer introduction and disturbance in between. I'll open the forum for others to introduce themselves. Thank you.
All right, I can go ahead. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Mullins. I graduated from UT in 2019 with a civil engineering degree. And back then when I was in school, I did actually work for the Women in Engineering program, now Women in STEM, for all 4 years of college. So I love coming back and being able to participate in these types of webinars. I live in Houston, so it's nice when there's virtual events that I can join in on. And a little bit about my career. You heard we're in like a technology focused webinar, and I have a civil engineering degree. So the path to get there was a little bit interesting. I started my career with ExxonMobil when I graduated doing construction management. And then COVID hit and there was not a lot of construction projects in the oil and gas industry. So I was put on a digital project that ExxonMobil was pursuing, got into product management, which is really focused around what features you want to build in a specific app or a specific digital product and the roadmap for achieving those features. And I really loved it. And so I now work at a company called Bottle Rocket that builds mobile apps and web apps for other companies. I'm working on an e-commerce mobile app right now for one of our clients. And it's been really fun, just kind of how things have evolved and how I've been able to use a lot of the same skill set moving from civil engineering to technology. So I really love that, and I'm excited to talk with you all.
All right, I'll go ahead and go next. Thanks for having me. My name is Priscilla Narosky. I use she, her pronouns, and hometown. I actually grew up as a military kid, so both of my parents were in the military. So I have several hometowns. So right now I call Austin home. That's where I'm working and living right now, and that's where I've lived for the longest period of time as a kid and also in my professional career and going to UT. I majored in architectural engineering when I was a student at UT, and now I work in the construction industry for a nationwide general contractor. That's Hensel Phelps, and I'm a project manager. Let's see, what are the other items that we had? Oh, hobbies outside of work. So outside of work, I really love spending time with my family, and I also love running, and I've trained for a few marathons, but I spend a lot of my time running and just spending time with family and traveling whenever I can. But thanks for having me.
So we're going to go ahead and move on to the facilitated discussion. So starting off, let's hear a bit more about your career paths. Can you share how you chose your major and how you got to your current position?
I will go first, if that's okay. Okay, so yeah, about selecting the career path, it's very interesting. Back then, and even now back in India, how do they do is all kids, they have to either doctors or engineers. So, that is the only select. But the thing is, when I was studying that time, I used to have this concept, or elders gave me this concept, siblings, that it's very tough field, medicine, because they were already in that path. But now I understand that it was not like that. I, being a merit student, could have easily navigated that. And then another thing was, my dad was retiring within 4 years tenure. So I wanted to start working before he retires, like, although it's not an issue, but it was just me. And second thing is, I always wanted to do, how they talk about equality and all that stuff. So I always wanted to work like same level as men, though I don't think like that now, but that time that was the thinking. So yeah, that's why I always wanted, as I hear one more panelist, she's a civil engineer. So I've always wanted to do civil, mechanical, chemical, and all that. So my dad himself is a civil engineer, and then he was the one who will have no differentiation between boys and girls, and he molded us that way. And he's the one who said civil engineering will be very tough for you, so better you don't take it, because you'll have to be out in the sun most of the times. And our other panelists, she will also agree. So then I gave it a thought, and then I got down to mechanical, and my cousin, he was a mechanical, he said we have just one girl in the class. And then I was like, okay, let me give it a thought. And then I saw one of my seniors, she was a merit student, and she got into chemical. And in the western part of India, there is lots of this industrial belt. And that used to excite me, because I heard that from morning to evening, whatever we use, chemical industry touches that. So that's how I selected my chemical engineering branch. I was very fascinated about it. And even during college, I used to climb these tall ladders where even boys don't dare to go. So, I was very enthusiastic that time. And also another aspect of chemical engineering, which interests me a lot, is environment, which very few people know. So they put pollutants in the atmosphere, chemical industry, but also they have a branch which deals with how to keep the environment safe, sustainability, and all that. That also interests me. So that was about chemical engineering. And then because of the changes and all, when I moved to the southern part of India, IT technology was very hot there rather than any other market. And if any decent job and nice job, I have to be in IT. So then I changed my career from chemical after working from 5 years in the western part of India. The southern part of India, I came to IT. And the first break, IBM, it sounds so cool, international business machine. So I'll keep telling everyone that, don't close yourself, just keep options open. We never know. When I was trying to get into IT field, I used to think, anything, a small job starting teaching and all. But then when I got this break, it's like, wow, everyone, not only me, everyone is like, wow. And then after years of technical design, development, and all that, at some point I realized I need more work-life balance for my family, for everything. Then that's when I decided to switch to IT management. So then here I am, and it does help with so much experience coming into management. You understand how your team thinks, works, focuses. So that is how I selected my career field. Yeah, thanks. And over to others for their own experiences.
I really love how there are different aspects that shape your career path. I feel like it just shows how dynamic the process is. It doesn't have to be like a straight path, to what you want to do.
Right, thanks.
I can go. I explained a little bit about how I ended up in product management whenever I was doing my intro, but when I think back to when I was in college and like particularly my sophomore year when I was thinking about internships, so this is like 6 years ago for me, for context, I was like in this stage of, I was like, I like civil engineering, I like the classes I'm taking, but I have no idea what I want to do. And I think my whole career has been a series of events of like just trying something and figuring out what I like about it and then trying to find those elements that I like in the next thing that I do. It's really, really rare to find someone that has a predetermined path in their mind that works out exactly how they want it to work out and they're actually happy in that. So I will say, to talking to students here, like, it's really normal to have no idea. It's normal to not even know like all the things that you can do with your discipline. I had no idea I would ever work in technology as a civil engineer. And I think a lot of the choices I made was just determining what I liked and didn't like in different roles and trying to have my next role emphasize on those things versus looking for a specific role or a specific title. I mean, you have a little bit more flexibility to do that when you're in a large company. So my placement at ExxonMobil from like a civil engineering role to an IT role was a little bit different. I was like, I don't know, extroverted roles. I like planning, and they just put me in an IT role. Obviously, when you're looking for different positions outside of a large company, it can be a little bit more tricky. But I would say just attending these types of sessions, learning about what different careers do, it kind of sets you up for determining what those things are. And I don't know, maybe I'll find something in my next role that I like even better than product management, and I'll go to that next. So I think this path is kind of ever evolving. And that's how I got to my current role.
For me, as a current student, I feel like I'm always changing my mind. And so I feel like it's just nice for our participants to see that that's okay in the long run. It doesn't have to be something specific immediately.
I'll go ahead and share my story as well, and it kind of mirrors some of those discussions about changing your mind. It's definitely never too late to change your mind. I have no idea what I'm going to do next or when I grow up or whatever that is, but when I chose my major, I actually went into UT and the whole college selection process thinking that I was going to go into aerospace and become a pilot and work with NASA or Boeing or something like that. And I didn't really fully understand, what that meant and the specific steps to get there and what my life would look like. And I still don't know what it would have looked like if I continued that path. But once I got to UT and I started learning more about, the opportunities and the environment that I was going to be studying in, and I realized that I wanted to have more influence or work more closely with the built environment that I would experience more regularly as just an everyday human being that doesn't walk onto rocket ships constantly. And I also wanted to just be more directly connected to people and work more in people management or working with teams. And that's not to say that, that wasn't going to be possible, but I didn't see that clear path that combined those two ideas. So I looked into going into something that was a little bit more extroverted, kind of like what Kelly was saying, and, more dynamic with the built environment and the people that I would be working with, that was a more clear path for me. So that's why I switched to architectural engineering. And it was really exciting for me because I can see architectural engineering in every place that I go. We're constantly in the built environment. So you can experience that really just by being every single day. I eventually learned more about the engineering career path and still wanted to be more focused in a team management and people management role. And I wanted to kind of blend the engineering technical side of things and that mindset with more business and management of those teams. So I tried construction for an internship because that felt like the way to get as close as possible to that experience and be very hands-on and just learn something, honestly, having no idea what the industry was about. And I ended up really enjoying it. And I saw a really solid career path for me there that I was interested in and wanted to see out. So I still work for the company that I took that internship with. I had no intention of what that would look like long term, and I still don't know what the future holds, but I haven't finished figuring out this path yet. And what's great about construction, especially with an engineering background, is that every project is so different. So yes, they kind of have the same philosophy and theme, and we follow the contract documents, and we work with the teams and execute those plans, but every project has a different set of parameters, a different client, a different location, a different, the whole thing could be a different experience every single time. So I really love that freshness that comes in, every few years whenever I transition to a new project, whether that's in a new role or the same type of role on a different project. So I guess the question was just how we chose my major and how we got to that position. So going in as an intern, it was really great working for Hensel Phelps that I got to really grow from the ground up and begin right at the bottom of that career path and experience every position along the way. So I've worked in the field as a field engineer, and I've worked in the office managing administration of contracts, and I've also worked as a field superintendent. So now I'm in a project management role where I think I've been working towards this point for most of my career, where I work with the clients daily. I help manage my team and execute and administer the contracts on site. So I spend a lot of my time really working with people, and I can see the result of all that work and just the buildings that we live and work with every single day. So I think I found what I was looking for, but I'm going to keep on going.
So as y'all can see, it is okay to not know what you want to do. It's like always going to change. So don't stress yourself, especially to the incoming undergrads. It's okay not to know. So our next question is, let's dive deeper into your STEM work in life and leisure. Can you tell us about a specific project or product you have worked on that can give our audience a glimpse into your day-to-day STEM work and how your work impacts our daily lives and in leisure time?
So as the usual cycle, I'll go first. So the thing is, I have worked in so many projects, but I don't want to bore the audience here by speaking about all of them. So I'll pick up the most exciting one, which is Apple. So while working at Infosys, I had an opportunity to work for a project called Apple. Apple company project. So in that, I was working as a program manager. And the day-to-day life there is, being a program manager, I used to handle around 20 projects in 2 verticals. So we have to keep track of the deliverables. So that starts like a pre-planning of say 2 years in Apple. Many companies do much more planning, like broader level, but our higher level planning at program management level was for 2 years. So then from there, we need to work with different teams, like technical teams, business teams, and all other teams. So most of the day in management area goes in meetings. And then I'm, as a manager, I'm trying to reduce that for everyone, because that is one question which pops up in industry everywhere nowadays. There's so many meetings. Where is the actual time to work? And then we have to work later in the day. But the day-to-day, you should prepare a day ahead, not only in professional life, also in your student life. If you are prepared earlier, it's very nice to achieve whatever you want the next day. And one of my directors at Verizon, that was an IBM project, he gave me a very good tip. It's a very basic but very good tip. Like how we do post-its and all that, it's very good to maintain a diary on what you plan to do today, and then keep tick on whatever you have achieved. So it gives a sense of, achievement on that day. So yeah, our works is like, I was at Apple, I was working for these products which are used by call center executives and the store executives. So how, when we go to any Apple store and they pull up some software and they ask you questions and give you different options, you sign terms and conditions and many things. So like that, softwares that are used by retail stores, that are used by call center executives. So our teams used to develop that software, getting inputs from business and all that. And then as a program management, I have to ensure that business gets whatever they need. And if technical teams are facing some issue, with the help of other counterparts, we need to overcome those hurdles. So that is how our day-to-day life looks at any IT management company. Yeah, so, and how my work impacts our daily lives and leisure time. So as you know, software is more and more impacting our day-to-day life. So when I speak about this specific project of Apple, we all know how many of us use Apple products, and then, yeah, so Apple phone, Apple TV, MacBooks, and all that. So I need not say more how it impacts our day-to-day work and leisure life. It's self-explanatory. So yeah, that's about me.
I really like the advice you gave about planning ahead, because that definitely has helped me balancing school and extracurriculars and things like that.
Oh, thanks. So see, we have one more group here. I'm sure there are many.
I can talk a little bit about what I'm working on right now. So I mentioned that we're building a mobile app. So I mean, I can disclose the client I'm working with and everything. So Lowe's is actually our client right now, and we're building a shopping app for them for products that they sell wholesale to maintenance staff for apartment complexes. Super niche, I know. And it's really cool. So as a product manager, what I typically do during the day is a lot of the times, like what I'm doing today, I've been drafting up release notes because we're going to have a release in a week from now. I'm going to verify and test the app for the scope that's included in that next release and make sure that we got everything correct that we're going to include there. We test the whole app end to end before we release to make sure, like, when this goes out to customers, that it's not going to crash. And then what I'll do after this release is I'll be looking at stability of the app, but also see like the impact to the app's performance. So if there's more customers going to certain sections of the app, how the features are performing. That's pretty much the most engineering piece of my job right now, is the data analysis. A lot more of my day-to-day is more strategic, of thinking about, like, okay, what does the next phase of this mobile app look like? What kind of inputs can we get from customers? What feedback are they providing? What are they writing in reviews that they want to see change, and incorporate that into a longer term roadmap. So it's been really fun. I mean, this is actually an app that you can go and download today. And I think that's a really gratifying part about working in technology compared to civil engineering, although I love civil engineering. The cycles are so much faster to see the product that you're working on. It can just be really exciting to, like, I don't know, physically have that product and have other people with the ability to use that product. I really love this user research element of product management, where you talk to customers, gather their feedback, and then incorporate that into the roadmap for what's going to be included in a mobile app. And I think that psychology element is what really initially drew me to civil engineering, because I like thinking about designing for humans. And a lot of that has I've seen that parallel in technology about thinking about how people are going to use the system. So like for maintenance staff, they have really calloused fingers sometimes, but we kind of had this assumption of like, okay, we need to have larger buttons and make things a little bit more accessible. And I don't know, you just kind of think in that more like human-centered way, and I have to incorporate a lot of that into my day-to-day work. So it's been really fun, and that's a little bit about the product that I've been working on.
I personally didn't know how much goes into creating an app and like maintaining it. So hearing that from your perspective was actually really interesting.
For my experience and I guess how my work and something specific I've worked on kind of impacts life and leisure and our experience every day. This is something that I find meaning in all the time. I mean, one, working in the construction industry has given me a lot of background just for my own personal life. I mean, everybody has to live somewhere and has to fix something once in a while, and just understanding how the parts and pieces of a building or a room or a system go together. I'm able to, understand and take care of things on my own, or really it helps mostly with being able to communicate with, other contractors or somebody that I might bring into my home or my business that would be, just doing work around there, whether that's, fixing the air conditioner or doing a remodel or building something from the ground up. So I experienced that just as a normal everyday person. So I find that my profession has actually helped me a lot with that experience, and my family as well. But specifically in my professional work, something that I'm really proud of is the work I've done in the last few years. I've been working in the aviation market sector, and I've recently completed a couple projects and still working at ABIA, which is the Austin airport. So if you haven't been there before, you can go check that you can check out that airport when you're flying in or out of Austin. And I was personally responsible for the 9-gate expansion towards the east end of the terminal. But we also did a ton of work throughout the terminal, modernizing and updating systems. We expanded some airfield paving. We added several gates. We did a lot of work to really grow that airport. And that's something that is really cool to see all the time, that something that I worked on, just, my everyday work on that project has not just impacted that client, which was the city of Austin and the airport, but anybody that uses that facility. It also has, expanded the opportunity for infrastructure in our city, making it possible for, more people to travel to and from Austin and grow businesses and grow the economy. And it's just really cool how a piece of that project, just being a part of that team, has really contributed to just the growth and success of this city that I love so much and the place that I love to live and work. So it's very cool all the time to see, my other baby, my project baby, grow up and be living and moving around in the real world and being used by regular people every single day. And then just seeing, the little parts that I was responsible for actually functioning and, operating and being used the way it was intended. It's also been really cool to learn about the behind the scenes stuff of our clients. Working in aviation, the buildings themselves are not always, what you would consider so geometrically complicated. It's really the dynamics behind the scenes of the operation of the airport that makes a project like that complicated, and all the people and teams that are involved in making the little city within the city at the airport happen. So there's airlines involved, there's operations and maintenance professionals, there's security professionals, TSA, federal involvement, and then there's just the everyday passenger that we're constantly, making sure that we have little to no impact on every single day in the work that we do. So it's really interesting to understand now as just a traveling person in the public, what really goes into getting your bag from the place you drop it off at the gate through the maze behind the wall whenever it goes past that conveyor, what happens with it, how all that works, how the conveyors work, the scanners, how the structure supports all of that, all the access areas behind the scenes, and then magically just shows back up at the carousel at the other end when you get there. It's amazing to understand really how their business works. Just because of what I learned how to do as an architectural engineer. I never thought that I would learn so much just from working on a project like that affects my everyday life.
I feel like oftentimes we don't take time to look at the small parts that make up the big picture. And I feel like hearing it from you makes it a lot more quantifiable when you think about it.
Well, thank you so much, guys. We're gonna move on to that Q&A section. And remember, everyone who's participating right now, if y'all wouldn't mind submitting any questions that you have. There are no dumb questions, and I'm sure everyone here is very eager to answer those. From Makana, they ask, did you guys participate in the STEM fair, and how did that prepare you for the industry in any way?
Yeah, I was seeing that question in the chat and I was typing the response, but I will speak rather than typing because it's becoming very lengthy. So yeah, hi Makana, hope we are pronouncing your name right. So yes, I did lots of fair attendance, and still I do whenever I get opportunity within IBM and even outside IBM. So how STEM fairs, job fairs, all these things help us is it increases our knowledge and social circle. And then if you want to grow up the ladder, if you want to do your work more effectively and diligently, it's good to have all this knowledge, what is latest trend, to have more social circle, because even if that knowledge and socializing is not helpful for you today, in future, sometime or the other, it will help you. So yes, I highly recommend attending STEM fairs, and I personally do it till date. Yeah, thanks. Hope that answers the question.
Do y'all have anything else to add, Priscilla or Kelly?
I'm not sure if our questioner was referring to a specific STEM fair or just general ones, but I agree as well. Any opportunity that I can, reach out and connect with, future STEM leaders, especially women in STEM. I try to take the opportunity to do that because I just love surrounding myself with people like that. And also it just, any interaction you can take advantage of to grow your network. You just never know who's going to be a good resource for you one day or be a connection. So if you have the opportunity and you can make time for it, I always try to participate or represent something that I care a lot about. If it's like a particular organization, like WiSTEM, I try to peruse those opportunities that come up if there's something in person or virtual. But it's really because not only do I want to connect with somebody and hopefully clear the path for someone to, find what's right for them, but also I just never know who I'm going to connect with. And, it could help us down the line. It could be, a good business contact for the future, or I could just learn something, to be honest. I always learn something from, especially panels like this, because I do not work in the direct technology industry, but I learn a lot from the people in that industry and the clients, the potential clients, and anybody that we might partner with. So yeah, always go for it if you can.
Right. And for one more point, I wanted to add to what Priscilla said is, hope I'm pronouncing your name right. So yeah, so as they say in many articles nowadays, we hear from everywhere, especially more so in COVID times, we never know whose lives we are touching by attending this type of social events. And we also never know what answers we will get from attending such events. So even, some smallest clue from someone, it can open the door which was closed for us so far. So this brings in a lots of help by attending such STEM fairs. Yes.
Thank you guys so much for answering that. Kelly, did you have anything to add there?
Not necessarily. As far as STEM fairs, yeah, I wasn't sure of what the specifics were, but what, like, I don't know. I think for me, just participating in STEM activities growing up and now kind of like, I don't know, volunteering with these types of things now. The main thing that it does for me, aside from building a network and those sort of things, is just grow my excitement for, or I guess reinforce my excitement for science and engineering, which sometimes you get so in the nitty gritty of my work. Like I'll be spending an hour drafting up a really long email on release notes, and you just get so in the details that you forget you just love working on science. And it's nice to just like break away from that and have an opportunity to solve problems that aren't necessarily part of your schoolwork or part of your like working day. And so I don't know, I think for me it's really just empowering and makes me feel strong as a professional, and I don't know, reinforces things that I originally drew me into a STEM career.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. That was super insightful, you guys. Sophia asked a great question. They're asking, what is the most challenging part of your careers and how flexible are your workdays?
I thought I was speaking. Sorry, I was speaking on mute. Oh, I hear someone else was speaking. I'll let them go if they are wanting to go first.
Sure, I can go ahead. I can especially speak to the flexibility because that's something I have really valued, and part of the reason I actually made a career change. I work fully remote. My whole company is working remote or work from wherever is what they call it. And so I have a lot of flexibility, both in terms of just like being able to balance my personal and work life. I'm fortunate to work for a company that does a good job of respecting our boundaries, giving us time off for lunch, making sure that we have flexible hours and that sort of thing. So that's been really nice just for my mental and physical health. And then as far as like flexibility in my career, I think one thing that you can have in sort of any experience that you have in a job is there's always going to be opportunities for you to do a little bit more. And I think at my current company, they're really encouraging of you pursuing ideas that you're interested in or having side projects. And I also saw that working for other companies as well. Sometimes it just is supported differently at different companies. Sometimes they'll invest money, let you invest more time, and different companies handle that differently. And so I'm fortunate to have had a lot of flexibility working in technology to both balance my personal interests, but then also invest a lot in my professional interest as well. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. And as far as the most challenging part, this is kind of like a dual question. The most challenging part of my career, I will say I love working in technology and learning about technology, and I love my job. And the most difficult part, or like the part of my day that sometimes I just leave so frustrated, is a lot of the interpersonal problems. And I think probably a lot of people will relate with this as well. Like you can love a subject so much, and then the thing that frustrates you is like your professor's attitude or something. Like it's always those little interpersonal things that can be really challenging. And I see the same thing at work. It's like the interpersonal conflicts, or you have a small issue with someone, especially in a remote environment, things can get misinterpreted over a message. And those are the things that I find personally challenge, is just kind of managing emotions and communication in a work setting. But overall, the content and what we work on, I love. So.
Yeah, I was about to speak on the same line of interpersonal thing, what we just heard from Kelly. Yeah, so I will go back to the question which Sophia asked, what is the most challenging part of your careers? So yeah, I will say challenges are everywhere, but as you have asked, most challenging part. So working at this stage, at midlife, work-life balance becomes challenging few times because work is demanding, your personal friends get demanding. That is one thing. Second is, sometimes in technology field, you get stuck on an issue and then you have to dive deep to solve that issue. So that is another type of challenge. And third challenge is people think differently. So there is no right way or wrong way, but people think differently. And then you want to do things certain way, someone else wants to do things certain way. So it's very important to, understand perspectives, keep calm, and, get the things done and get the project rolling, keep it moving. So this is one of the most challenging parts of our careers. And sometimes, long hours are needed. So how flexible are your work days? Yes, IBM is very famous for work-life balance. They take care of their employees very much, especially it's more or less true in all IT, in most of IT industry. But work-life balance just doesn't just means that it's about your comfort and your life. It's about work as well. Sometimes we have to give more time at work. That is like sometimes even 12 hours, 14, 16 hours. And sometimes when your personal challenges sweep in, like you have family situations, you have illness and all. So corporates are also equally flexible in giving you so many benefits. Like there are so many sorts of leaves and all. So yes, there is flexibility everywhere, but these are certain days where you need to focus more on work. And there are certain days corporates allow you to take care of your personal things. So it's both. Yeah. And trust me, challenges are everywhere for everyone, for none, very, or maybe very rare people, it's bed of roses. It's not bed of roses for anyone. There are challenges everywhere. So yeah.
I'll add on to what you were talking about with flexibility. In the construction industry, the most obvious definition of flexibility is that it's not very flexible, which, you can't physically put the blocks on top of each other from home. That's just not where the building is. So if you define it that way, then yes, flexibility is a difficult thing in the construction industry. However, but if you look at it as an overall production, overall accomplishment, it doesn't all have to happen one particular way. There's many parts of building a project, and not all of them require physical boots on the ground in the same location. And there's a lot of teams and resources involved that make it that way. So if our responsibility is to build a high quality project for our clients, then we just need to make sure that we're turning every stone to make that happen and not just the one way. So I will also say, though, that the longer that you are in your career, and I'm speaking from my own experience, that does add some other ways of having flexibility, just because of the nature of your role, whether you are a superintendent that has to physically supervise the work in place, whether that's a 3 a.m. concrete placement or a midnight electrical tie-in, or just a regular everyday safety inspection in the middle of the day, or putting together a schedule from wherever your computer is located. Flexibility is just kind of in the eye of the beholder, and you really just have to understand what the intent is and what your role requires, and how that changes over time. In my current role, I do have, well, I believe I've always had good flexibility, but in my current role, my teams are, I have a field team that has a supervisor. So they're on site full time, and I fill in for them when they need it. But most of my team does their work from a laptop. So they don't physically have to be in one place at a certain time all the time. But I do find that when we are together, we're a much more dynamic team. We're much more innovative, creative. We bounce ideas off of each other, and it doesn't have to be the one in person all the time, but just know that it also doesn't have to be fully remote all the time, because we kind of we have to kind of balance out, when we are taking time to spend together and grow that trusting relationship, whether that's, working on something on the same tabletop or through chat, or just having lunch and being a little more casual about problem solving together. So my role as a manager now is just understanding that not only are there more ways to figure something out, but there's so many people involved that have different stakes in the game and different assignments and roles, and just kind of figure out what blend of all of those personalities, assignments, and needs and constraints that they have to just get the project completed in the best way possible. So, and looking back, the time that I was, putting in the most on-site, physically demanding hours, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because that's where I learned the most. And then whenever I did have more constraints involved in my life, whether that's family related, personal related, or just the nature of my job tasks every day changed, I do appreciate that I went all in when I had the opportunity to, and I was given something to go all in for. So just know that those requirements will change over time. So, and then challenges, I mean, I'm just going to agree with Kelly and Nirja, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly too, but I did not get a psychology degree. Boy, should I have, but I honestly, I spend so much time understanding people, and I love it. That's probably one of my favorite parts of my career too, is just learning how people work together, and so we can all be successful. But my goodness, it is difficult because everybody is different. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's going to conclude our Q&A portion. I really appreciate all the insight that you guys were able to share and everyone's questions that they submitted. Joyce, if you want to close us off for the day.
So yes, we have reached the end of our webinar, and we hope you have learned a lot from our fabulous panelists about STEM in life and leisure. Be sure to keep exploring, and we'll keep adding, and we're going to add the links in the chat once again. So thank you once again for joining today, and thank you to our fabulous panelists for being here with us today. We look forward to seeing you all at our next FabFem Friday, next Friday, which is focused in STEM and data science, high tech, and computing. So just watch your email and social media for links and details. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You all too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.